The Heavenly Demon. Can't Live a Normal Life. By Sanchin. Chapter 101. Henry Alberts. Omniscient Viewpoint. Part 1. The day was bright. Hector's soldiers couldn't hide their wretched expressions on a morning that seemed like it would never come. It is morning. Damn it. They had complicated feelings. They sighed in relief, but they were also angry that they had stayed awake all night and had no good results. They were terrified of the darkness. Naturally, they couldn't help but be careful at night. As they didn't know when Roman Dmitri would appear and bring the scythe of death, they stayed awake until the morning. The battle was finally over. There would be no further attacks from the darkness, but the Hector kingdom had already lost the power to pursue him by now. Move the corpses of your comrades. We will appease their souls with cremation and then get enough rest. Give me a little bit of strength. The order had been given. Nonetheless, the soldiers couldn't help but be anguished. That was because there weren't only one or two corpses. Furthermore, it was impossible for most to carry others' bodies while being in such a miserable state, so the ones who were in better condition took most of the duty on themselves. Although it was difficult, no one complained. If they had run out of luck, then even their body would have been in the corpses, so even if they were tired, they were polite to the dead. Among them, Edwin Hector carried the bodies down the mountains as well. Commander. You don't have to do it. No. They are dead because of me. Even if I failed to save them, I do not want to leave them alone on their path to heaven. Jackson could only look at Edwin with a sad face. Obviously, Edwin had done his best, but the opponent was too strong. Jackson wanted to console him, but he knew that Edwin Hector wasn't ready for that talk right now. This defeat was because of my actions and orders. Edwin had messed up. He was shedding tears of blood within himself. As the day dawned and all the corpses were revealed, he could not contain the guilt he felt. When looking at the corpses, they had sacrificed their lives as if they were pieces on a chessboard. When he gave the order, they would simply accept it and sacrifice themselves, but when he saw the reality that they had been badly defeated, Edwin felt like his heart was about to give out. The situation was reversed, and it was so difficult to accept that so many had died because of his lack of ability. I was overconfident in my abilities. From the moment I decided that my abilities could handle the variable called Roman Dmitri, the perfect plan began to crumble down. The plan that was thought to be the lesser of the two evils turned out to be the worst option, and from now, the Hector kingdom has no choice but to face a desperate situation. This was the worst. When he was leaving Hector, he promised to come back after winning the war against Cairo. And after reviewing the plan countless times, Edwin Hector was convinced that his plan would never fail. Nevertheless, the reality was like this sometimes. Edwin felt his heavy steps each time he moved. The weight which was transmitted from the back carrying the corpse made his feet firmly touch the ground. How far did he move? Edwin Hector, who had finally moved all the corpses down the mountains with the others, set fire to them. FSSSHHHH. The fire rose high. No one said anything, yet all continued to look at it. Edwin Hector and his men stayed and watched the blazing fire for quite a while. Once the cremation was finished, Edwin Hector convened all the captains to the meeting. After all, falling into despair could only be a temporary feeling. The reality in front of them was still harsh, so they had to do their best to solve it. Report the damage. It will take more time to get an accurate figure, but a rough estimate shows that around 700 of our soldiers were killed overnight. On the contrary, the enemy casualties are less than 10. Huh. This. Sighs broke out from everyone's mouths. This was an overwhelming defeat. Edwin Hector clasped his trembling hands and bowed his head deeply. It is a defeat because of my inability and judgment. I will take this opportunity to apologize for giving the wrong orders. Prince? What the hell are you talking about? It isn't Commander's fault. The captains all jumped up. Among them, Butler spoke with an angry face. "None of us blame you, Prince." While he was only known to be a 3-star or a swordsman, Roman Dmitri was strong enough to defeat the prince and the others as well. Who the hell can predict such a variable? The opponent was just too strong. We do not want to see the prince bow his head. That's correct. Give us new orders. We are still looking up to you, Commander. Everyone agreed with Butler. They all had fought in the mountains, and as they had faced Roman Dmitri, they knew that the defeat wasn't Edwin's fault at all. Butler was right. Roman Dmitri was a monster. He had mobility that allowed him to pierce through their defenses and strength enough to kill hundreds. Even when they first entered the mountain, no one could have predicted this outcome. Edwin Hector said, "I am a commander who lost. Nevertheless, since no one else will solve our problems for us, I want to issue a new order to you. If you think that my orders will lead us to defeat again, regardless of your position, voice your opinion at all costs. We will follow your orders." They all sat down. Edwin Hector pondered for a long time while looking at the burning fire. Now, facing the worst situation they could, special measures were needed to overturn the situation. We cannot return to the Hector kingdom without results. Therefore, before the main force of Cairo kingdom arrives on the southern front, all the front defense lines will be captured by resuming the attacks that had been paused. The deadline is 10 days. In that time, we also need to clear the remnants of Cairo. After that, we will use the rear position as a base to prepare for a head-on war. What do we do about Roman Dmitri? He will definitely thwart our plans. The moment the name Roman Dmitri came up, the faces of each captain became stiff. They all knew how dangerous he was. It wasn't known which variable he would create next, but that didn't mean they should just keep sitting at one spot just because of one person. I admit that Roman Dmitri is a dangerous enemy. However, if he tries to sabotage our plans, we can get revenge. A battle in the mountain, which was done by taking advantage of darkness, and a battle in the plains, which takes advantage of the land, are different. The front defense lines are obviously positions neither Cairo nor Roman can give up. Thus, we will use them as bait to attract Roman Dmitri. Edwin had changed his thoughts. He would lure him out to the southern front. That was also because once the main forces arrived, Roman Dmitri wouldn't be able to act as he wanted. Thus, Edwin put the next 10 days as a gamble. If either Roman Dmitri was dealt with or all the front defense lines of the southern front were captured, they could at least take it as minimum conditions for a desperate fight. However, it is difficult to get the desired reward against Cairo through fighting alone. We have already lost 1,000 men in the fight against Roman Dmitri, and the Cairo kingdom must have seen through our intentions. If we push for the long run, we might end up at a disadvantage. What do we do then? That was the most important issue. The purpose of this war was a reward. And in order to receive that, they could not stay here much longer. Then, Edwin Hector found an answer after long deliberation. It isn't necessary to receive the compensation from the Cairo kingdom. The moment we fully grasp the southern front in our hands, I, as the prince of the Hector kingdom, will propose a deal to the Kronos Empire. Edwin was still fighting. Truly, the war wasn't over yet. At the same time, the Cairo kingdom was busy preparing for negotiations with the Hector kingdom. A person who managed the treasury of the nation, Count Eyre, spoke firmly. The financial situation of Cairo cannot fulfill the conditions of the Hector kingdom unless Cairo is to be destroyed. In the last few years, Kronos' frequent attacks on the western front have made us invest a lot of our budget there. So, if we grant the request of Hector, the treasury of Cairo will sink to the bottom. How about collecting more taxes? That's impossible. We already raised the taxes last year only. Even though the tax was raised for the sake of national security, the backlash was so extreme, and if we raise it again, even though it's only been half a year, there will surely be riots breaking out in Cairo. The report was disappointing. King Daniel Cairo sighed when he heard the words of Count Eyre. What do we do now? This was a mess. As the king, it was his duty to solve the problem, but no matter how much he tried and thought, a suitable answer didn't come up. The only way other than that to solve this problem is to use the wealth of nobles. However, the central government's nobles won't agree to that idea even in 100 years. They are not the kind to devote themselves to the nation. Cairo was quite a funny nation. Although the power of royals seemed to be strong enough to face the foreign invasion, it actually belonged to the local nobles and the central government, which never mingled with the royal family. The power of Marquis Benedict, Count Denver, and Count Gregory was huge, and it was clear that even if the Cairo kingdom was destroyed, they would still pursue their own interests. There is no way. The only choice left was to negotiate. The drying up of the treasury was a problem that would be focused on and resolved later. No matter how difficult the situation on the southern front was, they couldn't handle it over to the Hector kingdom. In the last meeting, because of Count Denver's argument, they had decided to wait 3 days and trust Roman Dmitri. Nevertheless, the nobles of the central government and Daniel Cairo didn't actually believe he would be able to change the situation in that short of a time. Then, Daniel Cairo got up. As Hector's dates approached, he couldn't resolve the issue of negotiation by himself. Contact the nobles of the central government. Tell them we will hold a meeting about negotiation. Yes. Just then, the door to the room opened wide, and a royal knight raised his voice with complex emotions on his face. Your Majesty Daniel Cairo. A magic call has been connected, and it has been reported that the enemy on the southern front has been defeated. The report of victory against Hector was a piece of unexpected news that made Daniel Cairo stunned. All the nobles of the central government gathered in the meeting room. They all reacted in disbelief at the reported news. Is it true that Roman Dmitri defeated the Hector kingdom? We still don't know. The Hector kingdom mobilized around 10,000 troops to attack the southern front. That is something the southern front could never handle, and I don't know how Roman Dmitri managed to defeat Hector. We need to confirm it to know the truth. If Roman Dmitri tells us that a victory has indeed been achieved, we need to be on our way. That was a conversation between Count Gregory and Marquis Benedict. Honestly, they still couldn't believe it. And Count Denver, who had suggested trusting Roman Dmitri, was also stunned when he heard the news. Roman Dmitri really overcame that difficult situation? It was amazing. He knew that Roman Dmitri wasn't an ordinary person from the moment he heard of him taking down Barco, but this achievement was entirely different from that. If this was true, Roman Dmitri wasn't someone to be dismissed as any ordinary 4-star or a swordsman. It will be even more shocking for the ones who don't know the truth of the test. If Roman actually has the ability to change the tide of the war, it is clear that Roman Dmitri is gifted with considerable talent as a commander. The atmosphere was chaotic. Finally, the knight who had been waiting beforehand connected the call on the magic communicator as Daniel Cairo entered the conference room. I will now connect communications to the southern front. Weak. Man arose, and beyond the screen, a man's face appeared. Chapter 102. Henry Alberts. Omniscient Viewpoint. Part 2. A face appeared on the screen. Nonetheless, it wasn't the face of Roman Dmitri. Seeing an unfamiliar face on the screen, Daniel Cairo ordered, "Reveal your identity and affiliation." I am Henry Albert, the second son of the Albert family." Albert? Everyone looked puzzled. It seemed to be their first time hearing that name. And when the nobles all looked at each other while questioning who he was, Marquis Benedict said, "Albert." Right, the family of Albert. No matter how it is now, it was once a family that had a place in the central government and produced some outstanding talents as well. That's it. Nonetheless, why are we looking at you and not Roman Dmitri? We would like to get in touch with the commander of the southern front. Henry's face brightened. Was it because they knew his family? His heart began to pound happily, and he struggled to calm it down and said, "I am now a member of the unit led by Roman Dmitri. As Marquis Benedict has mentioned, it is right for Roman Dmitri, not me, to be the one contacting you. However, for some reason, he said he would prefer to be alone, so I, the only noble on his side, took the initiative. His mouth became dry. Beyond the screen were those who actually had power and represented the Cairo kingdom. Not to mention the king, Marquis Benedict was also a person who was equally influential. He had also heard about Count Gregory and Count Denver. And Henry Albert knew that if they wanted, the Albert family entering the central government wouldn't be a dream anymore. Was that why? Strength entered his body. And when the king requested him to report, Henry spoke passionately. Roman Dmitri and I were both in the same training center and were on the way to being assigned to the 5th Defense Life as a reserve unit with our troops. However, we suddenly received a report of the Hector kingdom attacking us. Despite being shocked by the sudden change, Roman Dmitri and I headed for the 5th Defense Line with all our might, and... Wait. Are you going to explain everything from the start? Get straight to the point. Oh, I get it. Henry seemed to have kept speaking about things that weren't related because of the tension. So, he took a deep breath, looked at the nobles, and spoke with a different expression from the one he had on earlier. The guerrilla operation in the mountains was truly amazing. Henry Albert recalled the battle that had taken place all night. Henry Albert was lucky. He joined Chris' unit and managed to save his life, but his heart sank to the bottom when he heard the future plans. What? It is as you have heard. We intend to lure the troops of Hector to the mountain and fight them there. Are you people even sane? The Hector kingdom attacked all 5 defense lines at the same time. They must have brought around 10,000 troops, and you want to fight against them with our small numbers in the mountains? That is just insane. I assure you, the moment the enemy grabs hold of our tail, we will be slaughtered. Without mercy. Henry was being honest. No matter how much he thought about using the terrain of the mountains for a guerrilla operation, he could not think of a strategy through which he could overcome the vast difference in numbers. He was upset and said to Chris, I am telling you this because I really think of you as my benefactor. Why don't you run over the mountain with me? We have a long life ahead of us, and you seem like the loyal kind. Even though I understand where you're coming from, staying here despite knowing the horrible end is a foolish thing to do. When I return to the family, I will get you a new place. Did you say you were Chris? Please make a wise decision. Chris' expression hardened, and his attitude changed as soon as he heard that. Despite the other person being a noble, he grabbed Henry's throat. Quack. If you are thinking about doing such things, get out of here. We don't need to run away like you. As you said, we might get slaughtered by the Hector kingdom because of this foolish plan. Nevertheless, we understand that. Staying side by side until the end is our own decision. We will never betray our liege. Do you get it? Yes. Henry gave up the pride and nodded while lowering his eyes. Then, Chris let go of his throat. Henry Albert thought that these people were truly insane. Why on earth are they so loyal to Roman Dmitri? Idiots. If the situation gets any worse, I will abandon you all without another thought and run away. Even then, Henry believed he was right. That was because he was still living in the realm of common sense, and the matter was something that he didn't think Roman could solve, even though he had such stunning power. However, when the operation began, the entire situation changed. The darkness had enveloped the entire mountain. He then heard the sound of Roman Dmitri slaughtering the enemies, along with the loud sound of the whistles all over the mountain. The terrified voices of the troops of the Hector kingdom were clearly audible. And then, Chris' unit moved. Attack! Attack the enemies! The surprise attack and the operation were successful. The true defense circles confused the enemies, and thanks to them, the overwhelming force of Hector was slaughtered helplessly. Henry Albert was stunned. He was sure that these people were normal soldiers whose names weren't even known anywhere, but the force they showed was much different from any normal soldiers. They were the ones who had caused a massacre here. They literally overwhelmed the enemies. And what followed was the strategy of fleeing away after that. Naturally, Henry followed them. how did this happen? He was shocked every few moments. First, there were the true defense circles he couldn't begin to understand the principle of, and what followed was the overwhelming power of Roman and his soldiers. The slightly worse situation Henry thought of never even happened. That was because Roman's men attacked the enemy as stably as possible, and Roman Dmitri ran to the forefront all alone. And when he heard the sound of enemies being slaughtered from afar, his heart started to pound intensely. It was because he had realized that Roman Dmitri was much more than the monster he had thought of him to be. Soon, he recalled what his uncle had said. "Henry, I have organized it so that your unit serves on the 5th defense line, along with Roman Dmitri. Within 2 years, you need to somehow get close to Roman Dmitri. Keep it in mind. This is a very serious matter on which your uncle's future depends. So, no matter how precious you are to me as my nephew, if you don't do this job correctly, I will be angry." That was what he had said. Being a friend of Roman Dmitri, who would grow into a famous figure on the entire continent, was a shortcut to success. Even then, Henry wasn't fully convinced, but as he experienced a few changes, he changed his mind. Uncle was right. Roman Dmitri has the talent which will make him famous throughout the continent. There is no other time better than now for the Albert family to establish a close relationship with such a person. The antipathy he had towards Roman had vanished. He decided to risk his life. Henry Albert was now fully focused on making himself look good in Chris' eyes. Thus, he knew very well about what he should say next. This operation was entirely the idea of Roman Dmitri. As soon as it was confirmed that the ranger unit of the Hector Kingdom attacked the southern training center, Roman Dmitri understood that they were aiming for the warp gate and immediately went up the mountain to secure a secret position. In fact, if the commanders of the defense lines had listened to Roman Dmitri, then things would have been much easier for us. He depreciated the wrongdoers and put Roman above everyone else. He knew that Roman's men were also listening to him, so he purposely raised his voice. Roman Dmitri slaughtered hundreds of enemies through the guerrilla operation all by himself. The Hector Kingdom marched into the mountains with their troops to deal with him, and battles took place all over the mountain. What happened at that time was not in the realm of something that could be explained. Even though thousands of soldiers were marching and aiming for him, the moment Roman appeared, he died them all in fear by showing a monster-like appearance while slaughtering them in the darkness of the mountain. Thanks to him, we were able to carry out the surprise operation with ease. When Roman Dmitri drew the attention of the enemies and caused confusion, we hid ourselves and attacked them. His trembling body calmed down. At that moment, the fact that Henry had a part in all this gave him immense confidence. Let the day be bright. We fought till the end while being led by Roman Dmitri. He gave us confidence at the forefront, so we were able to bolster ourselves, and despite knowing we were at a disadvantage, we fought while giving our best. We even managed to kill hundreds of enemies overnight. And even though we only had 200 men on our side, we still managed to defeat the opposition, who had a dozen times as many soldiers as we did. Henry could now see the faces of the nobles beyond the screen stained in shock. He finally realized he had made the correct choice. Roman Dmitri was someone who would grow into a huge figure on the continent, and Henry had made sure that he was getting all the attention he deserved. As a loyal servant of Roman, Henry Albert said proudly, "The war is far from over. As long as Roman Dmitri holds on the southern front, we have a good chance. Please make a decision. We are ready to fight the Hector Kingdom till the end." Those were his final words. And Henry Albert thought that they were perfect. The entire meeting room was dyed with silence when the magic call was cut. Not just the nobles, even Daniel Cairo was shocked. According to the report, the Hector Kingdom brought in more than 10,000 troops to attack the southern front. And they managed to win against them? We acted so weakly. Roman Dmitri fought till the end under such adverse conditions when the nobles, captains, and commanders were desperate enough to give up without even fighting till the end. It was Daniel Cairo who had said those words. He realized that he had lived like a loser. Since the moment he was placed in the position of the underdog, he hadn't even considered winning yet. But now, things have changed. Marquis Benedict, too, spoke with a shocked expression, "Your Majesty, the king is right. From the moment we received the report that the Hector kingdom had taken over the warp gate, we didn't even think about winning. We already admitted the defeat mentally. However, the power of Cairo is not weak. On the southern front is a hero called Roman Dmitri, and we must use the opportunity he has given us to the fullest." That's correct. We need to send more troops to the southern front right now. What we need to do is use this chance to condemn the actions of the Hector kingdom, who dared to cross the border. This will set a good example to others. Everyone spoke in loud voices. The decision was finally made. Because of a single victory, a fire was started inside all of them. And Daniel Cairo, as well, chose war according to their opinion. The negotiations with the Hector kingdom are broken. From now on, we will slay the heinous hordes and restore the pride of the Cairo kingdom. The fuse of war was now lit. Cairo and Hector had now crossed a river they could never return from. The meeting ended as the nobles demanded war, and everyone left soon. Call the vassals right now. Get all the information you can about Roman Dmitri. Other nobles will have the same thought as us. From now on, we must be as fast as we can. The thoughts of Benedict, Denver, and Gregory were the same. They were like those who slept on the same bed but had different dreams. On the outside, they showed that they valued the safety of the southern front, but their true purpose was something else. Yes, it was Roman Dmitri. That was the moment when their desire to acquire him exploded like an active volcano. Chapter 103. Henry Alberts. Omniscient Viewpoint. Part 3. The vassals had all gathered in the conference room at the mansion of the Benedict family. They all got up as soon as they heard that the Marquis had arrived. "How did the discussion with the royal family go, Lord?" "That is why I called you people here." "Everyone, sit down." Tack. They all began to sit down near the table right away. As soon as Marquis Benedict confirmed they had all sat down, he said, "The negotiations with the Hector kingdom were cancelled." "Are we going to war?" "Yes. The central government has just declared war on Hector. Nevertheless, it isn't as bad as you think it to be. A few moments ago, we had a message arrive from the southern front in the name of Roman Dmitri. There was a battle with the Hector kingdom overnight, and his troops defeated them overwhelmingly." Gasp. Is that actually true? Everyone was shocked. Even a single victory had a lot of meaning. It meant that there was a change on the southern front, and because it hadn't been captured entirely, there was a chance to turn the tide of war as well. One of the vassals said passionately, "I am so glad. Actually, if the negotiations succeeded, the royal family of Cairo would have touched the wealth of the nobles. The power of Count Denver and Gregory will not be affected even if the Cairo kingdom falls, but that isn't the case for us." "You are right, but that isn't important." The Marquis had not summoned all the vassals as soon as the meeting ended because of the safety of Cairo but because of Roman Dmitri. "Even if we lose the southern front in the war, it won't be a bad thing. Using that problem as an excuse, we can criticize the current royal family for its incompetence and strengthen the power of the central government as well. The problem is that Roman Dmitri won against the Hector kingdom. His achievements are not a simple matter anymore. Even though it was such a discouraging situation, he headed toward the 5th defense line, defeated all of the enemies, and took the first victory against the enemies after he made the impressive judgment that they were after the warp gate. And the Hector kingdom decided to attack Roman Dmitri in the mountains to weaken him, but in reverse, he defeated them. When they all heard that, even their hands began to shake. Marquis Benedict knew that Roman Dmitri wasn't an ordinary person, but this battle made him sure of it. What do you think those results will mean? Roman Dmitri is not just any 3-star or a swordsman. He is born with the abilities of a commander that can lead a war to victory, and fortunately, that person even has patriotism for the Cairo kingdom. He had time to escape, yet he stayed behind. And seeing how he is fighting till the end, Kronos or Valhalla don't seem to have won him over yet. Thus, we need to win over Roman Dimitri's heart by any means possible. Marquis Benedict was planning to get him on his side from the start. However, as soon as he checked the expressions of the other nobles during the meeting, he realized that the head start he had vanished. Roman Dimitri had such a talent that literally all nobles wanted to get him. As he remembered their gleaming eyes, he spoke strongly. The original plan was to recruit Roman Dimitri after he had completed his military duty in the future. Nevertheless, things have changed now. Contact Roman Dimitri right away and find a way to convince him. Choose any means and methods. Use the wealth of the Benedict family if needed. If anyone can win Roman Dimitri's loyalty, I will reward them greatly. Yes. Even though the entire nation was in a terrible situation, they couldn't hide their personal desires. The other nobles were no different from Marquis Benedict. Count Denver contacted the Valhalla Empire as soon as he returned from the meeting. That is what happened. This is an unexpected result. When we informed Roman Dimitri of the signal of war through McKean, we intended to gain his favor and make him avoid danger, but he led the southern front to victory. He is truly an amazing person. There was a problem with the ability we had expected him to have. It is far greater than we originally estimated. I hoped this to be a chance to prove Roman Dimitri's abilities to the other nobles, but the absurd result of him defeating the troops of Hector has now made all nobles greedy for him. Perhaps Marquis Benedict has already made a move, and so must have Count Gregory. What do? We originally intended to sign him in the long term, but we do not seem to have enough time. The situation had become quite funny. Valhalla had let Roman know that they wanted him to come to their side as soon as they had finished the ranking test. Even then, they had thought that such a proposal was too much, and Roman's growth was something they expected to happen in the future. The Valhalla intelligence has identified the person who led the war for Hector as Edwin Hector, and he is called the Star of Hector. He isn't someone who can be defeated through simple things like personal strength. Roman Dimitri is the talent that Valhalla Empire needs. Therefore, we cannot stand by and wait for the other forces to take him. It was like an upgrade. They were re-evaluating Roman now. Roman Dimitri had a talent that provoked the thirst of Valhalla. Count Denver. I will entrust you with all powers needed for the recruitment of Roman Dimitri. It is too late to wait and contact him after the war. Find a way to get to Roman Dimitri now, and make sure to bring him to Valhalla. The Kronos Empire is not hiding its ambition either. We need talented people like Roman Dimitri in order to prepare for a war with Kronos in the future. He bowed his head. Count Denver had done the same after Marquis Benedict, and Count Gregory was no different. The war with the Hector kingdom wasn't even over yet, but another war was already taking place in the Cairo kingdom. There was a lot going on at that time. Henry Albert didn't even understand what he had done. His words had provoked everyone to move forward, but what he cared for was something else. It became clear through the talks with the nobles. If I survive as a member of Roman Dimitri, I can make a career out of it. He could not forget the shocked expressions of nobles on the other side of the screen. He didn't show any expressions, but he knew what they meant. When the war is over, Roman Dimitri will enter the central government. Everyone had to return home in the end. Thus, he had to stick in a place that would matter to the Cairo kingdom. The problem was that Roman Dimitri's men hated him. As he had shown such an aggressive appearance in their first meeting, there was no way they would like him. Roman Dimitri is spending time alone for some reason. So, who should I show myself off to in his absence? Incidentally, I know of a person suitable for that. A loyal servant of Roman Dimitri and a person who has high rank even among Roman soldiers. He is a colleague who has crossed life and death with me. Henry smiled. He then approached a man with a smile that seemed to warm the entire world and said, "Chris, you have been through a lot. Have this." He held out a jerky toward Chris. It was obviously high-quality jerky he had brought with him carefully, but Chris turned his gaze as soon as he glanced at Henry's face. "I don't want it." "Ugh, take it. It is delicious. Do you think I don't know what you are aiming for? This war has earned us merit, and if you prove that you were also there, you will also get a reward. Isn't that why you are looking at us like a dog looking at its food? It will not work. If you really want to get what you want, be a comrade who can be depended on in this terrible war and stop trying to impress us." Henry bit his lip when he realized the mistake he had made. As he had shown Chris his bad side, he could never convince him in such a short time, so he just stepped back while smiling and not saying anything else. Then, he looked at another familiar face. Was his name Kevin? Kevin was a small boy. He initially wondered why Roman Dmitri was bringing along a child with him, but the moment he saw Kevin fight on the battlefield, all his thoughts changed. Kevin was like a ghost on the battlefield. He knew how to kill his opponents while only using simple force and other methods, and the way he moved on the battlefield was impressive to everyone. If Chris was the second best person he could go to, Kevin was the third. He quickly made the judgment and walked over to Kevin. "You are Kevin, right? Would you like to have some of this?" The second son of the Albert family, a typical noble who acted like a rouge and kicked the door of the inn, was nowhere to be found. The peace was short-lived. After a day's rest, the Hector kingdom instantly attacked the front defense lines of the southern front. On the third defense line, the captain, Baron Vasily, gazed at Hector's troops swarming from afar and said, "Aid." Yes. According to the communication from the royal family, the Hector kingdom followed Roman Dimitri's troops and were defeated, right? What do you think? Roman Dmitri only has less than 200 troops on his side. Would that be enough to defeat so many troops? Wouldn't it have been that the power of the Hector kingdom was weaker than we thought? The royal family had contacted him a day ago. Roman Dmitri had achieved amazing success by defeating the enemies, so he was asked to help the man by some time. The Cairo kingdom had decided to go to war with Hector, so, in about 10 days or so, Cairo's main troops would arrive on the southern front. Nevertheless, when he saw the royal family praise Roman Dimitri's achievements like that, desires rose in Baron Vasily's heart as well. The aide replied, "I have the same thoughts. Isn't the Hector kingdom a nation that has been starving due to the recent famines? They could only have smartness on their side but no strength to support it. Right?" Yes. Those two had the same thoughts. They had been attacked by them not long ago. However, Baron Vasily thought they were pushed back overwhelmingly because the magic defenses weren't used properly against the flare of the enemy. Roman Dmitri had defeated the enemy with just 200 men. For some reason, he didn't think Roman could be that great and thought the opponent was weak. "I have been rotting here for 3 years. Maybe this is a chance heaven has bestowed upon me." The Hector kingdom had divided its forces to attack Cairo. And if the defeated soldiers lost their motivation after the confrontation with Roman, then they had a chance for victory. "Get all the troops right now. We will destroy the Hector kingdom's advance through a guerrilla operation." Even then, Baron Vasily believed that he wasn't that different from Roman Dmitri.